And call to order the February Finance Committee meeting. Coach is going to do the invocation and the pledge for us.
Thank you, Dal. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, as we come at this hour in the evening, we come with praise. We come to say thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be here tonight. I pray, Lord, that you bless the meeting moving forward. Pray that you bless Ascension Parish. Father, I ask that you bless each and every person under the sound of my voice. Bless our families and allow us at this hour continue to move this parish forward in 2022. And Lord God, as we leave this place tonight, I ask that each and every person get home safe and sound. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Coach. All right, roll call. We have Corey Orgeron absent, Travis Turner absent, Aaron Lawler absent, and Michael Mason absent. Chair's additions, we have none. We will be removing item 5O from the agenda. And for the public comment period, if anyone would like to speak on any item, please fill out a green or red card and hand it to Ms. Dawn, and we will handle those as the items come up. And we're ready to start. Item 5A, presentation of the 2020 audit. Falk and Winkler.
Good evening, Council, our Finance Committee. Have with me today Josh Smith. He was the manager on the 2020 audit, and Tom Lejeune, who is the managing partner at Falk and Winkler, and he was the previous audit partner over this engagement before I took over. But going over your 2020 audit results, a little bit dated, so I'm going to keep it kind of brief. You've seen these numbers a few times before, I think, but I'll just kind of give you the official results. We had met with the Finance Committee via Zoom back on August 26, 2021, so they were presented and approved this information. The audit was submitted to the Legislative Auditor and GFOA on September 30th, 2021. So everything was filed timely and as expected. For 2021, for 2020, we did not have the statewide agreed upon procedures that we had in the previous 3 years. Those were suspended by the Legislative Auditor, so we do not have a report on that this year. They will be back in action for 2021. So just wanted to make you aware of that. But basically what we have here is you've got 4 years of summarized information on the financial results. And then we do have some procedural and operational recommendations that we'll discuss as well. Looking at the next slide, this is kind of the results of the audit. Really broke it down into 3 sections. You have actually 4 auditors' reports in that thick book. I have the pages referenced in there for your for you to look reference to if you're curious. But basically, we have an audit of the financial statements, which was a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion, which you have had for at least the last 15 plus years. You have a auditor's report on within governmental auditing standards, as well as an audit opinion on major federal grant programs. Both of those were clean opinions as well. Then the Parish Transportation System compliance matter, that was a clean opinion as well. In terms of reportable items, we do have 2 to go over tonight that we'll go over at the end. Those are on pages 259 and 263 of the bound report, the spiral bound report. And then again this year, just to touch on the management letter, These two management letter items were reported to you in previous years. I think you all have been here long enough to know what we're discussing there. But first one related to travel policies, again recommending that you revisit that policy. Just some administrative burdens that come along with that that we're looking to clean up there. And then again, multi-year budgeting, we again recommend that you consider doing that. I know the staff has started to look into that matter as 2021 moved along. But, flipping to the first slide, what we have presented here on slide 4 is the governmental fund revenues. You see they totaled right under 115 million for the year. That was down from about 128 million in 2019. Sales taxes were down right at about 2 million, although ad valorem taxes were up right at 2 million. So from a tax perspective, it was basically flat. In terms of investment earnings, you did have about 4.3 million earned on investments. The other items were basically consistent from prior years. Intergovernmental grants were down, but there were some items such as funding from outside sources for this building here that we did receive that were not recurring. But grants is something that just varies from year to year depending on what projects and what opportunities you have within that period. To the next slide, this breaks down your sales tax collections between the different restrictions and your unrestricted portion. Your unrestricted portion was about 24 million for 2020. That is down about $1.5 million from 2019. Basically, that's your sales and use tax number one. That money funds all of your unfunded programs as well as any capital projects that you wish to budget for those years. We'll get to some detail about where that money was sent to fund programs later on in this presentation. Road construction slightly down at 8.1 million. You had your fire protection collected about 4.1 million for 2020, and then your drainage was down about 100,000, ending at about 15.8 million for 2020. But basically, for the most part, consistent, down 3.7%, which is not a huge number, but we did take a slight hit there. As I said, sales tax number one, transfers. This gives you 5 years of data as to where those dollars were expended or sent over to. Just speaking in a range for the 5-year period, utilities received anywhere between 3 to 7 million over that 5-year period. Up to 7 million in 2017. It received 0 in 2020. Looking at capital projects and debt, also participates in these funds. You do have some debt that is required to be paid with this sales tax number one money. We send anywhere between 1 to 5 million to fund capital and debt. Recreation is pretty much an unfunded program here. 3 to 4 million per year is what we average sending over to fund recreation programs. Roads is probably the largest on an annual basis on average. We're funding all of our road programs through sales tax number one for the most part. We're looking at a number in the $7 to $10 million range to fund road projects that were not funded by bonds in previous years. And then your general operations, that just varies just depending on what's going on and what's left over. But we've sent up to 17 million to the general fund. Mostly in that year that was to fund the reserve in the general fund. Now that was in 2016. From an expenditure standpoint, just broke it down into 4 major categories here. With the fourth being disaster-related cost. We're only showing this really in 2016, which was after the flood. It was pretty minimal in the 4 years following. That's why you don't see much of it here. But the blue section, the operations, pretty much flat over the last 3 years, which is a good thing. Basically, we're maintaining costs at a certain level, and even though revenues have been increasing for the most part, we're not increasing our expenses on operations. You will see the green has increased from 19 to 20. That increase was about 13 million from 19 to 20 to fund capital projects. A lot of this was spent down of bond money, mainly for this courthouse and for Move Ascension. Those two together was right at about 35 million expended for 2020. Other projects of note, firehouses in Fire District 1. We built a number of new firehouses there. And also we did do an addition to the women's dorm at the jail in Donaldsonville. Slide 8 is cash and investments as of December 31, 2020. We ended the year right under 270 million in cash and investments. The majority of that, about 136 million, is in restricted funds for capital outlay, with another 99 million in restricted funds for operations. So you have 235 million of the 269 that is restricted for some purpose and cannot be expended without meeting that criteria of that tax, that grant, or those bond proceeds that you received. And then on slide 9, in summary by type, this is your breakdown of your fund balances. You do have a spreadsheet printed out in your packet that does break it down by fund. I believe it should have been put in there. If not, the administration does have it to give to you on a fund-by-fund basis. But basically, in summary, the general fund and sales tax number 1 fund ended the year at 35,765,000. Recreation at 6.6, and then the jail at 1.3. Just note that recreation and the jail, those two do not have a dedicated funding source, so you are funding those from sales tax number 1 and the small amount of fees that you do charge on those two operations. In terms of restricted funds, we have 102,869 in total operating restricted funds, the vast majority of that being drainage at about 37.8 million. So we do have a nice fund balance there. Next largest would be our enterprise funds, which we have funded over the last number of years with excess sales tax to for the planned build out of the sewer operations. Fire protection, this is all districts combined. 1, 2, and 3, right at about 17.5 million. And then we have accumulated about 14 million in health and mental health operations. In terms of restricted capital outlay, drainage again at 48 million is the largest aspect of that balance. That does bring our total drainage funds between capital outlay and operations just under 86 million sitting in the bank. We do have dedicated road funds right at 40 million. That's basically the bonds we issued for Move Ascension and the other road project that we had issued funds for. And then we did have about 20 million at the end of 2020 remaining in the courthouse bonds that funded the construction of this building here. But as I said, in total, right at about 270 in total fund balances for the year. That kind of wraps up the numerical aspect of things. Do we have any questions on the numbers?
Chair will entertain any questions.
All right.
Wait, we got one, Jake. Ms. Cason.
Hi, Jacob, thank you so much. Go back to your explanation of enterprise funds for
Yeah.
me, please, and hit the highlights on that one.
Yeah, the enterprise fund on slide 9. Let's switch it over. Over the last, say, 5 or so years, we had in our budget ordinance, put excess sales tax of a certain percentage into certain enterprise funds as the year closed. We have accumulated about 20 million in fund balance in those enterprise funds collectively. That does not equal any capital that's on the books. And when I speak capital, I'm talking about the actual plants that are on the books as well.
Were those restricted funds in any way?
No. Well, let me take that. It depends where the source of the funds came from. If it came from sales and use number 1, that's unrestricted, so it would keep that restriction, keep that unrestricted nature.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. We'll be moving on to item 5B. It's also Falcon Lake.
Just
Oh.
wanted to mention also in the report, the 2 items that we did have in this document. One was a repeat related to ACUD number 2, just related to some billings, some billing issues we had. For ACUD number 1, that was something that was directed by you guys for us to go look at. We did have a number of procedural matters that we discussed in detail on page 261. Page 262 has our recommendations. Basically, we need to tighten up policies and procedures at that office, and everything from initiating transactions to approving transactions. We've met with the staff and finance, and no action has been taken at this point in time. We will revisit these items in next year's audit, pending your approval of our engagement later on tonight. And then the last item.
Hold on, Jacob, one second. Coach.
Yeah.
What was the biggest situation that y'all dealt with?
Yeah. So the approval of transactions was the largest. As you had asked us to go look at adjustments on customer accounts, there were a number of adjustments that were made without secondary approval. In your policy, it stated that I believe it was the utility supervisor, utility manager, and the office manager had to approve, both of them approve for any customer adjustments. That was not being done. We looked into the nature of it. Some did look like, frivolous billings where something was going on. We could not pinpoint why the billings had jumped so large, but those accounts were adjusted without proper approval. That was probably the biggest issue that we came across.
Thank you.
All right, you done with 5A? Okay, we'll move on to 5B, the 2021 audit engagement letter.
Yes, so you have in your packet our engagement letter for the 2021 audit. Terms are the same. We did have, the fee was adjusted for the current year. Pretty much same terms otherwise as it was for 2020.
You found it? We're looking for the letter, I think. I don't have it. I can't find it. Yeah, on the other item? Okay.
Was that?
She has a question about 5A.
I'm sorry, Jacob.
Yeah.
I thought that, so we also had a code of ethics compliance issue.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the internal controls there. The compliance, on the last page, it shares the administration's plan to prevent this challenge from happening again. I see that the parish intends to have that policy and procedure in a final draft for parish council approval by December 31st, 2021. I don't recall having done that. So is this something we need to be looking to come to us?
Yeah, that was related just to the policy to verify vendor relationships.
Right.
We put a anticipated date of December 31 in the report.
Well, that has
It's gonna
passed.
be that.
So
It's something that we're working on and you should see very shortly.
okay.
Yes.
Do you have an anticipated date?
I would hope by next Finance Committee meeting that'll be done.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. With any more questions on the letter, so actually 5C will be, I would entertain a motion to,
Yeah, so I think there's two letters on the agenda. I think they split them up.
okay.
One is the
Oh, this
audit,
one's different.
and then as I spoke earlier, there's the agreed upon procedure engagement,
I
which
see
came
that.
back for 2021. So it's actually two different engagement letters, but we conduct those procedures together. We do the two engagements together.
Okay, do you need to cover anything on 5C?
No,
It's
the
pretty much-
details back there, basically, what's happened is that about 4 years ago, the legislative auditor came in and mandated specific procedures that every auditor must do on any political subdivision that is receiving an audit in the state of Louisiana. Basically, it makes us dig a little deeper than we would normally do in a pure financial statement audit. So it's surrounding, do you have specific policies in place, and then are you following those policies, as well as looking at very, very detailed information. It specifies we have to look at certain things, such as credit cards, travel, are you complying with your ethics training, sexual harassment training, things like that. So it's very, very detailed information that we're looking at within those procedures.
Jacob, they added to, right, for this round?
Yes, yeah.
One on sexual harassment. Yeah,
Sexual
policy.
harassment and some IT controls, yeah.
Controls. So that's gonna be new
Yeah.
in terms of what you've seen in the past, or what we've had to look at.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, I think we would just need a motion for approval on B and C.
Okay, we do need one on B? Okay, so let's do 5B first. The chair would entertain a motion. Motion by Councilman Cagliotti, second by Mr. Mawson. And Councilman Lawler has a question.
Yes, Jacob, you had mentioned something, first of all, thank you for being here, I apologize for being late. You had mentioned something about credit cards. Do we have parish credit cards? Not
Yes.
me personally, obviously, but,
Yes, we do.
okay.
You do.
Are those part of the report? I mean, is that in here?
No, we did not test those for 2020 because the agreed upon I'm sorry, let me back up. We tested them in 2020, not at the level we're required to do under the agreed upon procedures, but that is something we look at every year. Basically, we select a random month or two, and we look at documentation.
Okay.
We're making sure they're supported, and then there's a business purpose attached to that charge.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any objections? Any questions? Hearing none. 5B passes.
Thank you.
What? Well, if there's no questions, you're fine, Jacob. 5C,
Make a motion.
motion by Councilman Molson, second by Councilman Robert. Any objections? Any questions? With none, that motion passes. 5D will be presentation only, but it's going to be an update on a renewal of our property and casualty insurance. Mr. Brett Hughes, Hughes Insurance.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be with you tonight. Like Councilman or Chairman Wagasback had said, what I'm going to do tonight, want to obviously answer any questions you have, but just to give you a quick update, rundown on where we currently are with the March 1st renewals. As you probably remember from last year, we have several policies that are renewing the 1st of March: general liability, business auto, public entity, public officials, workers' comp, the excess policy, equipment breakdown. I mean, there's a bunch of them that are renewing on the 1st. The big one, as far as what's taken the most time this year, is obviously property insurance. You can probably imagine in South Louisiana, after back-to-back years of historic hurricanes. In fact, today, there was an article saying that Ida is the 5th most expensive hurricane on record now in the history of our country. It has caused some major problems when it comes to property insurance. Now, don't be alarmed from a standpoint of we're going to have coverage. It's just taken us longer to secure the $160 million or so approximately dollars of coverage that we have on the current policy than it has in the last couple of years. 2 years ago, and then again last year, AmRisk is one of the companies that came in and said, hey, we'll take the majority of it. So they did. They wrote overwhelmingly the majority of that 150-something million, 156 million, I think it was, last year, right around there. This year, they came in and said, we're going to cut that drastically. So we're having to layer, because we've always layered your property coverage. You can't get one company that's going to come in and cover that much, especially in our area. So we have to layer that coverage. Well, this year, we're having to layer it, not just more companies, but get more to take more of the premium or more of the value, because one company's not taking the majority of it like they have in years past. So that process has just taken longer than it has the last couple of years. That's why I don't have a firm, hard proposal number to give you tonight for property insurance. When Dal had asked me to come and talk to you a little bit to give you an update, I talked to Pat, I met with Dal, and I met with John, Councilman Cagnolati this past, I guess it was last week, to review some of the stuff on where we are. I just thought it was important for you guys to know, and you know, Ms. Terry, when I say you guys, I mean for you to know kind of where we are right now in the process. We started this back in mid part of November. It's just taken a while to get it. We are shooting to have all these proposals back in time for the 17th regular council meeting, but it's just like I was telling Councilman Wagasback, if we find something after the 17th, which it seems crazy that you would, in the last 2 weeks, you might find something better. We have so many companies looking at it that the answer is yes. I might get a call on the 27th saying, hey, look, this company's willing to take another $25 million of the property when 2 weeks ago they were only willing to take $10 million. Well, if it's a better deal, we're going to take it. So I don't want to give you something and you vote on it, and we have to come back and get approval again. I would much rather give you an update on where we are in the renewal process. Hopefully the 17th, we have the proposals to present to you. Here's the options. That's the goal, which is 10 days from now. All of the companies that we're working with, they all understand that. That's kind of the drop dead date that I've given them. But if you are in the insurance world right now, you know that date, it better be flexible, because if not, we get locked into something and we might find something better, and that's just not, at least I don't think, the best way to spend the public money. And we need to find the very best deal we can when it comes to at least property insurance. The rest of the coverages that are renewing on March 1st, we have not seen a big problem as far as big increases. We have 3 or 4 of those actual proposals back in hand that more than likely that's what we're going to go with, and we present that to you. But I'd much rather bring it all to you at one time than piecemeal it to say, hey, tonight here's 2 or 3 that we can renew, and then on the 17th, here's the rest of them. So that's just kind of a quick rundown on where we are in the renewal process. It's been worked on. I am in communication literally every day, 2 to 3 times a day, on the property underwriters, talking to them and trying to get companies to take more of the risk, if you will, because the less layering we can do, the better premium we can get. If that makes sense. So mainly, I wanted to give that to you, answer any questions you have tonight on anything to do with the renewal process or anything else dealing with insurance, and I will turn it over to you for any questions that you might have.
Does anybody have any questions at this time?
I will tell you, I don't want to end on a sour note, but be prepared. We're going to be paying more for property insurance this year. There is no way around that right now in our area. So, and we're having that with all of our clients, but you can imagine with this much property coverage, it's a little more difficult than what it has been in years past.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming and spending the time last week to bring us up to speed, so.
We will plan on being back on the 17th, and hopefully we'll have everything by then. As always, we appreciate your trust in our agency, and we look forward to working with you for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the next item, I just wanted to say something procedurally. I did say motion passes. It actually passes to the full council for approval. So just wanted to clarify that before we moved on. Item 5E, Ascension Economic Development to introduce Project York Air Products Blue Energy LLC for participation in the ITEP under the Post-Executive Order 2018 rules. Kate MacArthur. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks, and good evening. We have the first ITEP request of the year, which is a $3.6 billion project from Air Products. So this blue hydrogen clean energy complex project represents Air Products' largest ever investment in the United States and will advance the U.S.'s clean energy transition and produce clean energy sources for the world. So I'm going to try and give you the best I can, but the experts are here tonight, so if this doesn't make sense, you can ask them. But this project includes construction of a new 750 million standard cubic foot per day blue hydrogen facility, and blue hydrogen is produced utilizing hydrocarbons as a feedstock, with the carbon dioxide in the production process permanently sequestered. A portion of the blue hydrogen will be compressed and supplied to their existing hydrogen pipeline to serve the Gulf Coast hydrogen pipeline network. The balance of the blue hydrogen from the facility will be used to make blue ammonia that will be transported around the world and converted back into blue hydrogen for transportation markets. The carbon dioxide from the facility will be transported via pipeline to carbon dioxide sequestration pore space, and the proposed project will capture and sequester 95% of the process facility's carbon dioxide emission. The sequestration site will be constructed and operated to meet all state and federal standards, which were established to protect the community and the environment. Construction and installation is expected to begin in 2023 and finish in 2025 or 2026, creating more than 2,000 construction jobs during that time period. 170 new permanent jobs will be created in the Darrow-Burnside area at an average annual salary of $93,000 per year plus benefits. During construction, $15 million of sales tax revenue will be generated locally for the parish. And over the life of the project, $103 million in direct property tax revenue will be collected for a total of $118 million of direct sales tax and ad valorem property tax revenues. The ITEP exemption over 10 years is a total of $83 million. So Air Products has had over 55 years of continuous operation in Louisiana and operates the world's largest hydrogen pipeline network. They have 5 manufacturing facilities in Ascension with a strong record in health and safety, protecting both employees and the environment. They spend around $150,000 annually in philanthropic activity in the community and have made over $1 million in contributions from the Air Products Foundation in Louisiana since 2015. And we do have Niall Bolin here tonight, who's with Air Products. He's the East Gulf Coast Commercial Manager, and he is here to answer any project-specific information and to do a little bit more detail on the project itself.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman and committee members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come speak tonight. My name is Niall Bolin. I'm the Air Products East Gulf Coast Commercial Area Manager, responsible for our hydrogen and carbon monoxide business, what we call CO. Our HYCO business. I've been with Air Products for 26 years and 19 of them here in Louisiana. Again, some of this may be a little bit of a repeat, but we've made our first investment here in Louisiana in the 1960s at our Michoud site on the east side of New Orleans. We currently have approximately 335 Louisiana full-time employees, 15 operating plants connected by a pipeline network stretching from Baton Rouge to Michoud, and pays approximately $28.7 million in annual payroll. Our plants and interconnected pipeline system along the river were connected in 2012 to a similar Air Products system in Texas, creating the Gulf Coast Hydrogen Pipeline, which is the largest hydrogen pipeline network running all the way from Texas City to Chalmette, and safely and reliably serving a large array of customers. The system has a capacity of actually 1.5 billion standard cubic feet per day of hydrogen capacity. We are committed to the communities in which we live and operate, and will work to be a bigger part of the Ascension Parish community as we continue to grow. This project, actually $4.5 billion in total, blue hydrogen clean energy facility in Ascension Parish is expected to be operational in 2026. And as Ms. MacArthur said, the investment will create 170 new direct jobs, annual payroll of $15.9 million with an average salary at $93,000. She already mentioned that approximately 2,500 construction jobs and $400 million in additional payroll. As we have been doing for over 50 years here, we will commit to making every effort to hire local contractors and employees. The facility is going to be built in an industrially zoned area off River Road near the Impala Burnside Terminal. We have an option to purchase 372 acres from Impala, and approximately 300 of it will be developed directly and actively used for this new facility. The permit we'll be submitting to the LDEQ will be a minor source for emissions as opposed to the major source. The highest source of greenhouse gases from this operation is CO2, and we will be capturing and permanently sequestering 95% of it. Working with local government, Air Products will develop a mitigation action plan to minimize the impact to the local community from the project. We've already committed to protecting the safety and well-being of the community by mitigating any inconvenience that could be caused by increased traffic, and have started a traffic study that's currently underway by a third-party expert. The study is analyzing existing traffic patterns and project requirements, both during construction and obviously when the facility is fully up and running. Preliminary results from the study indicate we will not use LA 44, which is already overly congested. We will attempt to use LA 22 and are considering developing flexible shift times to minimize the impacts to existing traffic. We are considering developing a park and ride option for employees to minimize adding project-related traffic to roadways. We're committed to protecting the safety and well-being of the community by mitigating any inconvenience that could be caused by the increased traffic of a project of this size. Noise generated by the facility is expected to be comparable with existing conditions. Noise hazards will be controlled and will be compliant with regulatory requirements. We've also become quite aware of drainage problems in the parish and are studying with experts to make sure our activity will not add to the existing issues. We do plan on coming back to share with you and the people of Ascension Parish our complete plans on all these issues prior to construction and during the permitting process, which is still some time away. We are committed to working with the local agencies, community, and government officials to ensure clear communication. The driver for this project, there is a growing market interest in low carbon intensity products and energy sources. Louisiana has announced its intention to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050, while at the same time preserving the state's economic competitiveness. This project helps move forward achieving both of these goals. According to the economic analysis conducted by LSU economist Dr. Jim Richardson, the Air Products facility will create construction and business activity in and around Ascension Parish, enabling new jobs, income and tax revenues for Louisiana state and local governments. I think Kate already covered pretty much all of the economic impacts and the benefits there. So on behalf of Air Products' more than 335 full-time employees living and working here in Louisiana, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to come speak to you this evening and review this investment.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay. Oh, let me guess Joel first.
You said 2,500 employees, construction employees, or 1,500 construction employees?
2,500.
Okay, so that 2,500, just to give us an idea, it's 2022. When would y'all plan on construction starting? 2023, 2024?
2023.
Okay. Which is, I mean, that's a great thing, you know, bringing the jobs and bringing the people here for many reasons. My second question, during the traffic studies, And, obviously including this 2,500 employees during the construction, I'd assume is going to be your highest volume of traffic, correct?
That's the peak, yeah.
Yeah,
25.
okay. You said that y'all are not using Highway 44. You're going to use Highway 22 and use shift times.
There was a reference to trying to avoid using 44 and
No,
recognizing existing.
And that's my question is, this is going to be individual employees driving to work, correct? So how, in which way or how will y'all be able to have them avoid using Highway 44?
I'd probably have to.
I think, yeah, I think you're referring to the construction timeline. So 2023 to 2025, the end of 2025 or the beginning of 2026 would be the construction time period. So at peak, it would be 2,500. So that doesn't mean all 3 years it would rise and fall based on
No,
what
and
the
I
activity.
understand that, and I'm good with the numbers. I think the numbers are great, and I
Right.
love the whole project. I'm completely for it. I'm just saying, as far as what, in which way or what safeguards are we going to put out to communicate to the employees and to the contractors that Highway 44 is not going to be a suitable route? And I'm just saying this because we know how things work, and Highway 44 is going to be used by a majority of them if some things are not put in place beforehand.
Yeah, I think I understand the question. How
Right.
can you get people to
Like-
stop? But
When they do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's more the ride share concept, or if you did, a drop-off point, like.
Or
no
maybe even just
vehicles will
somehow we
mark
should
in.
include that into the traffic study of the
Right,
impact
then
during
I
that
think
time.
those are
that, yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
the findings from the study.
Yeah, I think that should influence the findings somewhat. And like I said, I think it's a great plan. And my third question, do you think it's feasible to reach net zero by 2050, is that? Yeah, 2050? Net zero greenhouse emissions is what we looked at?
That's a big question.
No comment?
I've read, I think, the summary of what they published. I think under the assumptions of what they put, yes, it's whether you can actually achieve all of those individual targets, or whether you can do it. I mean, it sounds like a solid plan from what I've read, so,
So it's doable, it's feasible.
sure.
Okay.
All right. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, I got Councilman Melanson next.
I just had a quick comment. I just wanted to thank you all for not only picking Louisiana, but picking us. This is a phenomenal project, and that was a pretty exciting day. I think it was a Tuesday, maybe we woke up to all the news that we had been picked, so I appreciate it, and we look very forward to having y'all with us for
I can tell
decades
you
to
we're
come.
excited too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got Councilman Turner next.
Just one question. As far as the hiring process, are y'all going to be looking to try to hire individuals in that area? Would they get any type of preference?
I don't think we make every attempt to hire locally, but I don't know if you can help with this.
Local contractors and employees will definitely be given preference over out of state. We'll have further meetings on those points for the community, and we'll be providing more information as to how people can get involved and apply for jobs and that sort of thing.
I'll defer.
That's it for right now.
Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman. Travis pretty much took the question I wanted to ask, but in detail of hiring the local people, will there be any training prior to the jobs that's coming in terms of the job that you'll be hiring for? Will there be any training in hiring those people? Yeah, or dealing with the high schools, Downsonville High, Santa Monica, Dutchtown, East Ascension, just giving them some training prior to hiring process and what you'll be hiring for.
Yes, sir. And my name is Shannon Burke. I'm the Government Relations Representative for Air Products for the region. I can't speak to specifics, but I do know that we'll be working with the Fast Track program through the Louisiana Economic Development and all of the wonderful benefits that are offered there, which includes training programs and other type of the programs that are offered. And we also are looking at other ways that we can invest in the community, including scholarships and vocational training programs within the high schools and that sort of thing. So I would definitely be interested in talking to some of the
Some of the
local
local high schools.
representatives that
Yeah,
can put me in
right.
touch with the right people through Jim Harris at Harris DeVille and Associates.
And in keeping local hired, so to speak.
Yes, sir, we would like to
local
as much as
contractors and
possible.
local,
Obviously, we can't legally exclude
Yeah, I
someone from
understand
another
that.
parish.
I understand that,
You
but-
know, but, and we have we've committed to hiring local as much as possible.
giving the local an opportunity in terms of getting the jobs. And the reason I asked that, because a lot of times, a lot of the contractors or businesses that come in, and due to them coming in, they don't set up a hiring process of what they're gonna be needing for as training-wise, in training the local people on what's gonna be hired, you know, the type of jobs that they're gonna need in terms of getting local and staying with local. And I know you're gonna have to go outside, but hire as much as we could with the local hire.
We're definitely interested in that. You know, it's one of the reasons that we picked Louisiana and Ascension Parish is the wonderful trained workforce. And, you know, it's a big benefit that you have here. And we want to be a community partner. We're looking at, you know, likely 2025. So there's still time to make a lot of decisions, and those type of things will be fleshed out. We'll be providing much more information as the project progresses on how people can get involved and in just ways to learn more about the program and, you know, the training needs that,
Right,
the assets that will be needed.
training, that's, we appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
All right, I think we got Councilman Cagnolati next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just thank you, Air Products. Thank you, Kate, and your staff for all the hard work you put in for us. We appreciate it. That's all.
I think that's all, and I just wanted to add a comment. Thanks for being stewards of the traffic and looking at the drainage. We appreciate that as a community, that you guys are doing that proactively, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chair would entertain a motion. Oh, did I have? I'm sorry. Okay. It's been a while with all the questions. Okay, so any objections? All right, with that, motion is moved to the full council for approval. Next item, 5F, contract for engineering review agency services pursuant to RFQ selection committee meeting on December 18th, 2021, awarded to CSRS. Mr. Fournier?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, before you tonight is a renewal of the CSRS contract for engineering review agency services. The renewal is based on an RFQ issued by the parish where 3 firms submitted proposals, and CSRS ranked first by the review panel. The project allows CSRS to continue their role as our engineering department, reviewing and providing comments and development submittals to the parish. Review includes subdivisions, drainage studies, fill analysis, traffic studies, and generally providing guidance on compliance measures with parish regulations and all development projects in the parish. Fees collected from the development pay for the services, all right? With us tonight are also Sean Chiro and Michael Sanji with CSRS, if you have any questions. All right?
I got a motion by Councilman Lambert, second by Councilman Casso. I got a question from Councilman Melissa.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would like to make an amended motion based off so one of our last meetings with Kendi Keys, something they found preliminary in our findings is that the parish should go out and hire our own firm to do traffic and drainage impact studies and not allow developers to outsource this.
Okay.
I would like to amend this to 6 months and an option to renew up to a year. In April, they could come back with the findings, and if that's a route that we go. In April, I would have I would hate to wait till next February to have the option to go hire our own firm to do the TIS and the DIS.
Okay. Just a point of clarification.
Okay.
CSRS is not preparing traffic studies for us with this
Right, they're
contract.
reviewing them.
They're reviewing them, correct. And if we go out to our own firm and having them do them, then CSRS very likely will not be reviewing them
Oh,
again.
okay.
Right, so,
Okay.
yeah, so I guess I'm a little
I
confused.
will withdraw that amendment. That's, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
yeah,
So just to clarify.
Yeah.
They just, if we switch to that, as Councilman Lawson is suggesting, they just wouldn't charge us for that portion of it. If we
Correct,
change
yes.
that procedure.
Yeah, the amount that's in the contract right now is a
Right.
not to exceed amount, correct?
Okay.
Right, so.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Councilman Lawson.
Would this contract eliminate CSRS from possibly, getting in on the RFQ to work for the parish on our behalf for TIS and DISs?
I wouldn't see where they'd be eliminated from that
Okay,
process.
okay,
yeah.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it. Thank you.
That would very likely be a legal question.
Okay.
All right, got a question with Councilman Lawler?
Yeah, I just want to confirm, this went out for RFQ, correct, of December of last year?
That's correct,
Yeah,
yes.
a couple, 2 months ago.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
Thank you, that's all I wanted to confirm.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I did want to add one comment. This is something I'd like to try to start doing in the Finance Committee. But we did talk about, when we do a contract like this and renew it, I think it'd be helpful to the public and to all the councilmen to know what we spent on a certain contract last year. So we did talk with Sean Giroux, actually rattled it right off. 2021, we spent $175,000. The contract was not to exceed $300,000. So actually for this year, we lowered the not to exceed to $250,000. So as we go through this, I've talked to Mr. Goldsmith. We're going to try to, as we do renewals, we're going to try to review last year what we've done in a contract and then talk about what changes we've made and why. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
anyway, I just wanted to mention that, but if we don't have any objections, Parish President.
Jimmy, if I may suggest, if we're going to go that route, let's do a 3-year in case we have an abnormal year. We can get an average of not to exceed so that we know when we're lowering or setting, we're not doing that on a yearly basis. Do a 3-year outlook or past outlook on what we spent each time. That'd be more preferable so we can get a little more data on maybe lowering or increasing.
More data is good.
Thank you.
Yep. No, and again, it's just to review what we did the prior year, but I think that's a great suggestion. I'll leave that to Mr. Goldsmith to put in process. All right, motion and a second, no objections. So that motion is passed to the full council for approval. 5G, amendment number 1, the master contract for public works construction for chiller replacement at the old courthouse for additional specifications and warranties needed to the original scope of work that will make the unit more efficient. An additional amount of $8,900 for total contract amount of $103,700. I think Mr. Thomason is going to take that one tonight.
Basically what this is we had the old control system. We put in the new chiller. When you tied it into the old controls, it didn't work. So we had to buy some new controls, and they also got the extended warranty on the chiller itself to help do preventive maintenance.
Got a motion by Councilman Thomas, second by Councilman Cagney. Any objections? Any questions? Okay. Oh, Councilman Lawson.
Did the contractor not know that the new controls were not, that the old controls were not going to work with the new chiller?
No. No, I mean, until you try to tie them in, that's basically what probably killed the old chiller, was the controls was bad on it to start with. So, but when the chiller dies, you just know to replace the chiller. And when you it's kind of like changing car parts. You start one part and you find out that it wasn't the right one, so you go to the next one. And that's kind of the way I understand it. I mean, I wasn't involved in it, but to my understanding, that's the way it happened.
All right.
And Councilman Robert.
So to kind of go off of Chase's question, did y'all hook these controls up that messed up the old chillers to the new chillers, and did they?
The existing controls was already connected to the existing chiller.
I'm just making sure we didn't damage our new chillers. with
No,
the-
we didn't damage the new chiller. You always test the loop.
And that extended warranty covers it? if so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, no additional questions, no objection. That motion is passed to the full council for approval. On 5H, amendment number 1, a master contract for preventative maintenance to generators located throughout the parish to include to Exhibit A, a 10 kilowatt owned in an enclosed trailer. I guess you've taken that one too. A motion by Councilman Melancon, second by Councilman Lambert. Any questions? Any objections? All right, that motion passes to the full council for approval. Item 5I, change order number 1, ASA Contractors, OEP Department, Relocation and Renovation, increase of 65 days and an additional $39,816.90 for a total contract amount of $231,456.90.
And as you can see in the change order, we listed each change order individually. We compiled them. And basically all of these is parish requested changes, whether it be from our IT department or from our OEP group, which is like the mini split air conditioner to handle the server room heat, which wasn't in the original plans, and relocating some walls. Once we got the stud walls up, they did a walkthrough and they wanted to make some changes. So basically we made those changes.
Okay. I got a motion by Councilman Lambert. Do I have a second? Councilman Cagliari with a second, and I have a question from Councilman Robert.
So you're saying a total project of 231,000, and 39,000 in change orders. So we're looking at like 15+% increase?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we originally budgeted 250 for this project.
So we're still within budget?
Yeah, it would do within the approved budget originally, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. No additional questions, no objections. That motion passes to approval by the full council. 5J, change order number 6, BRP Construction LLC, Animal Shelter Renovations, increase of 30 days to substantial completion. Motion by Councilman Melancon, second by Councilman Cagliari. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes to the full council for approval. 5K, Certificate of Substantial Completion, BRP Construction LLC, Animal Shelter Renovations. Motion by Councilman Melancon, second by Councilman Caso. Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes to the full council for approval. 5L, change order number 1, Geosport Lighting Systems LLC for lighting replacement, Butch Gore, Leo Stevens, and Santa Mall Parks to add an additional 158 days due to supplier delays. Motion by Councilman Melancon, second by Councilman Caso. Any objections? Any questions? Hearing none, that motion passed. Oh,
I'm sorry?
You ready for fall season?
Yes, sir. We should be finished by the end of the month.
Good.
I mean, they've been telling us the control panels are coming, they're coming, and they just keep slipping and keep slipping, but they pretty much said they'd be here and we'd be able to finish by the end of the month. So by the council meeting, I should be able to give you a better answer.
Okay.
all right. That motion passes to the full council for approval. 5M, change order number 1, Bob Bernhard and Associates, jail HVAC upgrades Phase 1 to add an additional 120 days due to unforeseen delays in factory production and shipping. Motion by Councilman Lawson, second by Councilman Casso. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes to the full council for approval. 5N, Certificate of Substantial Completion, Doyle Electric Filter Plant Electrical System Upgrade. Motion by Councilman Lawson, second by Councilman Casso. Councilwoman Casso, sorry. Any objections? Any questions? Hearing none, that motion passes to the full council for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. 5O is pulled. 5P, Cooperative Endeavor Agreement between Ascension Parish Government, Ascension Parish Fire District Number 3, and Prairieville Fire Department for the use of paid part-time firefighters and be allowed to use a portion of the funding provided for fire protection service to be used for to compensate their part-time firefighters.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, second by Councilman Lawler. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes to the full council for approval. 5Q, Amendment Number 1 to Professional Services Contract with Corporate Mechanical Contractors, Inc. for the general maintenance and emergency repairs for the chillers, AC, and heating units at LDEC. The contract is to be amended by an additional $12,000 for a new, not to exceed amount of $61,000. That does not look like jazz, but Kyle Rogers, welcome.
A lot better than jazz. Thank you, guys, and Ms. Terry. This is just some unforeseen repairs, pumps, systems kind of old. We're getting everything back online and trying to get everything running as efficient as we can.
Okay. I got a motion by Councilman Lawler, second by Councilman Cagney. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you, Kyle. To approval by the full council. 5R, contract report for the months of December 2021 and January 2022. This is something that you should have had in your packets. I think moving forward, me and Mr. Goldsmith had talked about, this is something where we're going to be working on something a little more proactive, not only for the council and the finance committee members, but also for the public, just to see, what contracts we have open, what's the year-to-date against them. Just to give a little more information on what contracts are out there open and what's being charged against them. And again, you'll have the opportunity to ask any questions if something doesn't look right or you have any questions about it. So does anybody have any specific questions about any contracts in the report? All right, with that being said, we're going to move on past 5R, and then we'll move to the finance report. And Patrick is going to do the parish position report. You all should have gotten it. I think I sent it to you Friday, and I guess if you want to, I don't know if you were planning to do a summary or you want to just field questions?
Yes, sir. We wanted to do a summary just to give you an idea because we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yep.
I think it was even in my consulting report way back when, and been talking with the administration. Yep. Then Councilman Lawler most recently brought it up, and it kind of brought it to the forefront again, and I'm glad he did. So working with the chairman, we knew that y'all were interested in the fill positions. You wanted to know changes in positions. You were looking at overtime. So it's taken a large effort, but a lot of things had to be done before we could even get to the report. First, we had to make sure the data was right. So we had to get with IT, HR, and finance. We had numerous meetings to try to work through to make sure everything in Munis was right. The departments were set up right. The allocations were kind of a challenge because, we split so many people amongst different departments. So moving forward, I think we've done the work that this will be a lot easier moving forward. Obviously, going back, it's a little bit more difficult, and we do know that y'all want more historical data, and we're going to work on that. The good news is it'll take a while, but once we get it done, it's done. And you'll have that, forever. So we're going to keep working on those and keep moving forward. And this is the first draft. So you're going to see improvements, each month. We know there's definitely things that y'all want to see, so we're going to keep working on that. I need to acknowledge several people who have done a lot of work on this. First, with IT, we had Brian Martinez, we had Brandon O'Day, we had Colt Babin, who did a lot of work to make sure the IT side was right, Munis was right. But I really need to acknowledge two really special people who did a ton of work. Unfortunately, they're both under the weather, and they're not here, but I guarantee you they're listening, knowing how dedicated they are. So Megan Babin and Ashley Barnes did a tremendous amount of work. Megan, from the HR side, got the positions correct and went through all the historical data and just spent an unbelievable amount of time making sure the data that's in the report is good. Ashley Barnes did the salary and the OT information, and when she found out that y'all were interested in maybe looking at the totals for 21 without even being asked, Thursday night, while she was under the weather, she actually stayed up all night and basically did that so we could put it in the report. So I want to make sure I acknowledge the two of them because of all the hard work, and they will continue to do with this because we want to make sure this information is what you need, and it helps you, and also helps the public. It's just another part of the transparency that we've been talking about for a while. And now, in terms of going over the report, we're going to let our new HR director do that. So if you have not met our new HR director, Lucy Cason, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. And I know some of y'all, this is going to be the most important thing. She was a 92 graduate of Santa Monica. So I know that's very important. But she has 22 years in federal human resources with the Department of Navy, Army, and the Marine Corps. So we are very, very fortunate to have somebody with this much experience here. And just to give you an idea of some of her appointments that she's had, she was the head of recruitment, staff, and classification for the Marine Corps base in Albany, Georgia. She was the head of recruitment, staff, and classification for the Marine Corps base in Japan, in Okinawa. She was the Deputy Director of Human Resources, Marine Corps Base in Okinawa. And she was the HR advisory to Echelon 2 Navy Command Program Executive Office Enterprise Information Systems. Sounds pretty impressive. I'm not sure what it means, but it sounds impressive. And that was in Washington, D.C. And she was also awarded the Navy Superior Civilian Service Award, and that's the highest civilian honorary award that a major claimant can receive. So, again, very impressive. She has her degree in sociology from Campbell's University and a master's in arts in HR from Webster University. And you can tell she's been all over the world, but we are lucky that she moved back here in 2016, and we were able to nab her and get her to agree to come work for the parish. And we are very happy and very blessed that she is here to help us. So with that introduction, I'm going to let her kind of run through the report and just give you a lay of the land.
Thanks, Patrick. Very honored to be here. So I appreciate you going through. That sounds like you're speaking of somebody else, but I guess it is me. So thank you. Thank you for your interest in human resources. This type of information has been very difficult to come by, and it boggles me. And we're trying to do better. And it is not from lack of trying, it's our systems don't seem to want to give us this information. So we're trying really hard to make that easier. So what you see in front of you on page 1, I believe, is your calendar year 2021, correct? So I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So you'll see as of August 1st, September 1st, October 1st, and November 1st of 2021, you have employee totals there. And you see we ebbed a little bit as of each month. We shift to give you the entire year for 2021 on the next side of that. That first column has your number of promotions. So to make sure that we're speaking the same language, a promotion is when you move from one position to a higher position with more earning potential, not just a lateral. I say that to make sure that a lot of times people will define a promotion as just when you receive an increase within your current, and just to make sure we're communicating, that's what that first column is.
That means more work too, right?
Yes, sir.
Increase the job.
That's what that means.
More work and more responsibility.
Yeah.
That next column, the promotion dollar annual, is the actual what those promotions turned out to cost. And of course, that all reads back to the department as well. So that first one is, there were 2 in administration. The next one is 1 in animal control as you go down. Make sure you're understanding that. That purple column is the merits and COLA number, so that's the straight number of merits, so that's within the existing position. and the number of COLA. If there's ever any question, I can stop. I just want to make sure that I'm getting through that. And of course, that next purple column is the actual dollar amount that it cost. And then the green is the total for the entire year of 2021. So this information is historical at this point and won't change. Is there any questions on that first page? Okay.
Oh, I got one question.
Okay.
Councilwoman Casso.
Good evening. Wonderful to see you in that seat.
Thank you, ma'am.
We really are delighted to have an individual of your background and caliber here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we should be able then to expect to have answers if we had questions. Let's just use a for example. To me, the idea that in mosquito control, 2 individuals were promoted, and those 2 individuals got a total of $41,000 worth of raises. That's, that steps off the page as what is that? Look, this was not asked of you all in order to be a gotcha moment. So what I would like to know is to whom do we direct our questions when we see something like this? And I'm happy to do it tomorrow or the next day, but to whom do we direct those questions? Because I'm going to ask about that one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We actually had that conversation because obviously we can't ask every department to come here every finance meeting. And so I think the best thing to do is when you see these, if you get the questions to me or to Lucy, we will make sure we get you the answer. Mm-hmm. If we know it, obviously we can provide it, but obviously, looking back a year, but if you get it to one of the 2 of us, we will definitely get you an answer.
We appreciate that. That's going to be perfect. It's
No
not
problem.
It's not any effort to ever embarrass anybody from this dais. So
Sure.
in order to avoid that would be a great way. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I have a question from Councilman Lawler.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that we kind of went through the same process with the budget, and Patrick, you did an excellent job of answering all my questions. And it wasn't gotcha stuff, it was I didn't understand things. That's what we're expecting here, and this looks excellent so far. I'll have questions later on, but y'all have lived true to your word, the administration, that when we email you some of those kind of questions, you answered them, and it was really helpful at budget time. So I thank you for that.
And that's a great point too, because if you get this, and obviously you'll get this before the meetings, if you're able to ask before the meeting, that gives us that much more time. So obviously if you email us, that was great when you sent those questions. We're happy to answer any questions y'all have.
And I already have an answer for you, ma'am. Megan has texted me, telling me.
I told you she was listening.
Those individuals were promoted from part-time to full-time.
Perfect sense. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So the second page is where we go into the month of January 2022. So the same list of departments there on your left. As of January 1st, 2022, you will see the prior month filled positions. And then the next 2, you will see the delta, the changes. Either that be staff leaving or the gains, new hires gains during that month. And so then that third column is the current filled. So obviously what that results in. And then the total payroll as of February 1st, 2022. So this is where you will see on a monthly basis, I believe.
And I think that'll be another conversation, probably with the chairman, is it monthly, is it quarterly? But we will continually update this information, and then we'll see when we can have a conversation of how often you actually want to see it at the meetings.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to everyone and see what their feelings are. I mean, like I talked to you, we don't want to make extra work just for the sake of making extra work. If quarterly is sufficient, I think once we have the basis, probably quarterly is going to be sufficient.
Okay, absolutely.
So what you'll see here is that we had no promotions in the month of January. So there was no increase there. That's where our merits took effect. And then you'll see the cost of the merit and the COLA. And then the totals of that.
And obviously, most of that is the COLA because it took effect the first pay period of this year. The one that was approved the plan that we just implemented, the tiered plan. So that's why you'll see such a large number because every eligible employee got that COLA.
And there were some employees that weren't eligible for the COLA. So
And
that's
that
why you
is,
see it's
that's the
not a
annual
one-to-one.
total
The annual.
increase,
Yes, sir.
as opposed to the one to the left where it's just the monthly.
Yeah, so this will be an annual event. So moving forward, we're going to, we've talked about having those ordinances and we're working on those to have for the end of the first quarter. And what you're going to see is a process that lays out when that COLA happens on an annual basis, so you'll have consistency. And what I think you're going to see when we bring it to you is that at the start of each year is when it'll go into effect. So the first pay period of a new calendar year, which is a new fiscal year, is when you'll see the COLA hit. So it'll be consistent from year to year. And like we said, administration to administration, it'll be the same.
Are there any questions on this page?
Got one from Councilman Lawler.
Yes, it's and it's not specific to this, this department, but I notice, if you look in building, and I want to make sure I'm understanding the merit and COLA numbers under employee changes, there are only 15 employees, but there are 16 merit COLA raises. Does that mean that there can be a merit raise and then a COLA raise? Is that how we're tabulating it?
Correct.
Just so I know in the future. So it's possible the number of employees we may have double that in that column.
That would be highly unlikely.
No, it'd be highly unlikely, but I just want to make sure I was understanding it, that wasn't a typo.
Yes,
Correct.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Moving on to the last page, you'll see the totals for overtime for 2021 and 2022. So obviously, we have large amounts here for 2021, and then we have the amounts just for the month of January in 2022. We have them categorized as exempt and non-exempt, and then the total. And that's FLSA exempt and non-exempt.
Hey, Patrick or Lucy, would you explain what I asked, just so everyone in the room knows? Because I was telling them I was shocked to see an exempt employee, which usually means you're exempt from overtime, but they actually
Correct.
get paid overtime. So could you just...
Absolutely.
Just
So
for
an
everyone.
exempt employee typically does not receive overtime, but they legally can in situations where there's been a state of an emergency declared either by the governor or the parish president. We also, so don't be surprised if you see that here, because we do have some situations where a state of emergency has been actualized because, like at the health unit, you'll see that with our nurses that do a 24/7 type of staffing of that area, and we have a severe shortage of them.
And COVID is when that really hit, and they said, we need 24-hour coverage. And that is a good thing, and there still is a state-declared emergency, and we're having nursing shortages trying to find them. So that's why you'll see those. As well as some of the others, if you look at it, it's probably COVID-related. The only other difference would be call-outs for drainage. They're allowed to get straight time for call-outs for that. So when you look at East Ascension drainage, that's a different section of the policy manual. So those would be the two exceptions you'll see in the manual for exempt employees.
Okay. And as we spoke about also, is that some of that is reimbursed through disaster relief.
We hope we can get reimbursed for everything we can.
Yeah. I got a couple more questions. Councilman Lawler.
Wow, I'm always first on the list lately. I love the term, it boggles me too. That was funny. On the overtime portion of it, this is where I'd like to also see some historic data, maybe for 3 years, just to get an understanding of, I know a lot of this may be due to Hurricane Ida, and to get a real good understanding of what do we have maybe in a year that we don't have a hurricane. Is there something different job over there? But if we can get them some help, I appreciate that. That's it.
And we can definitely go back, and we'll have to go back, see how far we'll have to go back and when there's a year with no storms.
Yes.
20 wasn't a very good year either with COVID and storms, but we can definitely do that, and obviously there's going to be perspectives from each year that we can make sure that everybody understands.
Yeah, I think we'll get a good understanding of it, just based on the storms and that sort of thing. I'm just curious to see.
Sure, absolutely.
Was that 3 years you requested?
3 would be good. I mean, you want to do 20, go for it. Megan's about to kill me at home, probably.
Got it.
Councilman Cagnolati? Nope? Okay, Aaron asked his
Thank you.
question.
Storm.
I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you very much for putting that together. Very informative, and thanks for answering all the questions. Next item is, I think it's 6B, although the formatting on this sheet is a little crazy. 6B, Budget Amendment Number 1. I'm going to leave that to Dawn to.
Good evening. You have before you the ordinance for Budget Amendment Number 1, which reads as follows. Excuse me. An ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2022 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension, adopted by the Ascension Parish Council on the 18th day of November 2021. Section 1, the Ascension Parish Council hereby ordains that the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2022 operating and capital budgets for the Parish of Ascension is hereby amended, approved, and appropriated as follows. Operating budget, the Juvenile Justice Program Fund, expenditures and other financing uses, transfers out for the Juvenile Justice Program Construction Fund, for architect fees for the Early Childhood Development Center, $600,000. Parish Utilities of Ascension, expenditures and other financing uses, engineering services for the Water Sector Program Grant, appropriations and grants capital, $821,000. Capital budget, Juvenile Justice Program Construction Fund, revenues and other financing sources, transfers in for from the Juvenile Justice Program Fund, for the architect fees for the Early Childhood Development Center, $600,000. Expenditures and other financing uses, architect and landscape services capital, $600,000.
Motion by Councilman Cagnolati, second by Councilwoman Casso. Any objections? No more questions. That motion passes to the full council for approval. Right quick before item 7, I know we have drainage. I'd just like to encourage the public or any of the council as we're going through these reports and as we improve this communication, reach out to your councilman, ask, tell us the things you want to see. I mean, this is about open finance and just getting the information out there. If there's something that we're not doing that somebody wants to see, please let us know.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned by Councilman Molso.